Well, look who we have here. If it ain't Danny Boy, I ain't mad at you. No, I ain't mad at you. And guess who else? Stokely from the band Mint Condition. Now this is a psyop I don't hear anybody talking about. But you notice, every time Reggie Wright JR get to talking about artists from Death Row, he usually start off with disrespecting them, like Snoop is a snitch. Daz and Snoop got socked up by the homies and they ran at the swap meet, at the Compton swap meet. They ran to the police and told on Suge. What else? Corrupt stayed a whole weekend with a girl that was in 9th grade or some shit. I mean, he just be telling the motherfucking business. At what point will somebody stop giving these police officers freedom to just speak in the community like they are for us when they were perps against us? They was the ops. What Reggie Wright JR and Gene Deal and them got to say is totally irrelevant because them niggas is cops and Pac and Big was killed on their watch. Period. You can say what you want, you can feel how you want to feel, but those two men were killed on those security guard / police officer watch. But Danny Boy is the most interesting character of them all from Death Row. You see, when he was with Death Row, he's Danny Boy. When he's with Mint Condition, he's Stokely. That's right, he's the same person. That's obvious. They try to throw you off by taking pictures together and all this other shit. But at the end of the day, it's the same person. Their eyebrows is the same. Their haircut is the same. Their foreheads protrude out the same. Danny Boy has fake teeth in his mouth. And when he's Danny Boy, allegedly, now he's gay. Did y'all see how that nigga started crying at Suge's trial? He sounded like an absolute broad. Okay? And Danny Boy is such a goddamn liar, talking about he slept with Mary J. Blige when he's 16 years old. You's a goddamn liar. You almost got Mary J. Blige arrested by the feds with that pedophile shit, man. You fucking liar. Mary J. Blige didn't touch your young ass at 16, man. You's a goddamn liar. And you gonna try to tell me that you was singing right there with Casey and JoJo and Aaron Hall and fucking Mary J. Blige on the side? You's a liar, nigga. You's a liar. You looked up to Casey and JoJo. You wanted to be Casey and JoJo. And when they didn't accept your ass, you start lying on Mary J. Think about it. Danny Boy ain't never come out with no R&B album. We never heard not one project from Danny Boy while Death Row was still a viable label. We heard this shit years later. How we know he didn't just recently go and psyop record this shit in the studio right quick so it could sound like he recorded this album when it came out. Danny Boy was married to a woman. Danny Boy got young children. The children that Danny Boy got, he cried on one of these shows and said he didn't want his son to allegedly be a homosexual like himself. And what parent would say that? What parent leading a certain life, knowing that his kids could follow that pathway, would tell them the opposite? When you talk about enormous confusion in a young person's mind, well, then you could only imagine that Suge and them thought Danny Boy had some goddamn sugar in his tank, as much as they was calling people gay and talking about they work at Bubbles, him and Pac and shit. Tupac, which really throws me off, right? We give Danny Boy a pass and have him singing all over his album and shit, but then be calling Dre out of his name every 4 and 5 minutes. And Danny Boy actually said if Pac was alive, he would have accepted him in the fashion that we know Danny Boy now, as allegedly coming out as part of the LGBTQ community. That's why I'm telling you, Danny Boy is a goddamn liar. The nigga embodies lies. He is a lie. His whole career is lies. You know, and lies end up buried with flies. Now, let's get back to Reggie Wright Jr. You know what I'm talking about? Who will do anything to avenge his cousin Eazy-E's death. Mr. Fuck the Police himself. Okay? Reggie Wright Jr. has slandered everybody in Death Row but Danny Boy. I wonder why. The stuff he even says about Danny Boy is obscure, minuscule at the least, but let me show y'all something about Reggie Wright Jr. Fat ass. Reggie Wright Jr. sunk Death Row. He was the security guard the night their biggest artist, Tupac Shakur, was killed. Worst security in history. How you gonna let the Golden Goose get killed? Second, when Suge went to the pen, Reggie Wright Jr. for a short stint, along with another nigga, I can't think of his name right off the top. He's a dude from 60s. When I think of his name, I'll mention it. Keita Rock, that's his name. Keita Rock. Reggie Wright Jr. and Keita Rock from 60s, for a short stint, was the CEOs of Death Row. Keita Rock was the CEO of Death Row on the album called Too Gangsta for TV. Reggie Wright Jr. was the CEO during a period where they released the Lady of Rage album and what other little baby Pac albums came out, and then also another album by Snoop that came out while he was with No Limit, but Death Row dropped an album called Dead Man Walking by Snoop as well, where a nigga had the whole red jumpsuit shit on from the Murder Was a Case video. It was like they were trying to clown the nigga or something. I think it's like back in the day when he used to call himself Snooper Duper or some shit. So, now with that being said, right, that was Death Row's worst selling period. The only thing that saved Death Row at the time was they dropped the Tupac album Till the End of Time. And once again, with a double album, Pac, even from the grave, had to save Death Row. Danny Boy wasn't coming out with no albums that could sustain Death Row. And all these niggas that you finding in the alley, Barney Rubbles and all these other little baby C-team producers. Them niggas wasn't even around when Pac was alive. Them was producers that got picked up a lot of times at the end of the reign or when Pac got killed. Suge was signing any goddamn body at that time. Even the OFTB album, did that ever come out? I mean, officially? I know that it had some anticipation. People wanted to hear it, but I'm going to be personally honest. OFTB is Legends and Watts. But in South Central, you know, they not even on the radar as far as legendary status goes. They legends in their own community, and I really never thought OFTB was going to be able to sell any records anyway, because they're so Los Angeles street based that maybe young fans of rap music probably couldn't identify with that. But the strange thing about the OFTB connection and the Reggie Wright connection, and you wonder if Reggie had anything to do with the murder of one of the artists from OFTB. I'm just being honest. Reggie goes to the pen by doing some business with the Grape Streets and the Peter Roll Mafias out in Memphis. And went to the pen over that. Him and his dad was involved with that somehow. But he come on Vlad after he got the pen looking all sickly and shit. And it's like, man, you was talking about everybody else dropping dead like flies around this motherfucker. Talking about all these people talking about Reggie Wright Jr. There's a whole lot of people dropping dead like flies. Frank Alexander, you know what I'm talking about, who was another cop. See, the part with Death Row that got scandalous to me is when cops start killing each other. Just to try to steal Death Row money. Reggie Wright Jr., you knew shit about music. You knew nothing about music, bro. How did you end up a CEO of Death Row Records when there was way more qualified people? Hell, Suge could have left the keys to Michelle A before you. At least she knew about the record industry. It had a record out that went platinum under Ruthless Records. So the reason why I'm bringing all that up is because Reggie Wright Jr. knows that this psyop ass nigga Danny Boy right here was a goddamn infiltration. Who knows if that's his vocals at all or Stokely. You see, these side programs start when these kids are way young in the ROTC programs of high school. They start grooming them from the 9th and 10th grade. You ever notice the kids that are with the ROTC program ain't never the popular kids? Because had they had been a part of ROTC, that shit would have been the #1 program. Learning how to use combat weapons and shit in high school. And tactical military-minded strategies. And that was something that Tupac talked about all the time. You ever seen that picture of Tupac when he was a young man looking gay in a motherfucking interview? I digress.